Hi everyone. Today in this video we are going to see what is the best way to create a Java Singleton class. So as this question is being asked very open in most of the interviews, I have decided to create a video on this. And in this, whether you are a beginner or the most experienced Java developer, so we are going to cover what is the best way and what is the best practice to create a Java Singleton class. Before we go ahead, please do not forget to like, subscribe and share. Now one thing we need to understand that to create a singleton pattern, we have different ways and we can go for different techniques as well. Now today in this video we are going to use a technique, we call it as a Bill Pugh. Why we call it as a Bill Pugh? Because he was the computer science professor at the University of Maryland who has introduced this new technique to create a singleton pattern. So why he has introduced because he has observed that before Java 5 the double checked locking pattern for lazy singletons was broken due to memory model issues, and he has again observed that many developers used synchronized getters to make singleton thread safe, but it has a performance cost, like those had a performance cost due to which Bill Pugh introduced a cleaner way that takes advantage of Java's class loader mechanism to achieve lazy initialization, in which we can create an instance when it is needed, and thread safety without synchronization, and simplicity as well. So these are some important reasons due to which this Bill Pugh pattern is the best among available approaches and is the most recommended one. Now to create a singleton class, we can use the editor, which is a Spring Tool suite, and here we can locate to the project folder. So here inside Java we can create one folder with name singleton. So this is the folder location wherein we are going to create our singleton class, and we can simply click on launch button. Now here we can select the first option to create a Java project, as we are going to create a simple Java project. So here we can give the name of the project like singleton example, and here we can uncheck this create module info file, and we can simply click on next button and finish button. So we have created a simple Java program. Now inside this src we can create one package with name com.example, and inside this package we are going to create our singleton class. Next thing, we need to create our Java class inside this package. So we can right click on this, select new, and this is the class in which we can write our class name, which is my singleton. So this is the package and this is our singleton class. Now the technique which we are going to use, which is a big Pugh technique we are going to use. So Bill Pugh, sorry, it is a Bill Pugh technique we are going to use. Now we need to think about what all things we need to add inside this class so that it will become the best recommended approach to create a singleton. So let us think one by one. We need to modify the class declaration. Next, we need to think about the variables, what all variables we are going to declare. Next, we need to think about the constructors. Next, we need to think about any helper class we are going to use to restrict the object creation. And finally, we need to think about the global access point like the getter method. And finally, we need to think about some security checks like which is for the implementing the serialization guard. And next, finally, we should not allow to clone our object. For that we need to check for cloning guard as well. So all these things we need to implement in this class. Now let us see how we can add all these things one by one. First of all, we need to check like while creating the singleton class, first thing we need to keep in mind that this class should not be extended by any other class. For that we need to add the final keyword so that it should not be subclassed by any other class. Next thing, we need to implement serializable. This is the interface. So we need to implement this, so which is inside java.io package. So why we need to implement this? Because Singleton holds shared configuration or state that need to be sent across the JVM. And there is another reason, like when we serialize or deserialize the Singleton, if we have not taken the proper precaution, then every deserialization creates a new instance which can break the Singleton. So okay, so that is the reason we need to implement the serializable, and here we need to add some variables related to the serialization, like private static final, and we can use some long, and here this is the serial version id is equal to some long value we can assign. So this is the variable. It will make sure that in case for the on serialization, on deserialization, if it creates any new object, then this id value will not get matched. So that is the reason we need to use this, so that it will map with the only one instance of the Singleton. Next thing, like we need to implement our one other variable we need to add, which is private static final and ThreadLocal, inside which it will hold the Boolean value, and here we can add some variable initializing, and we can create the instance of ThreadLocal using new keyword. Now the question may come in your mind that why should we use this ThreadLocal variable in our class? Because basically it will help us to block the reflection during our tiny construction window, that here this will make sure that it is not allowing a reflection through which we can create the another instance of the same object using the constructor. So for that, just to block that, we need this ThreadLocal, and using this ThreadLocal we do not need to use the synchronized keyword, which may impact the performance, or the volatile keyword as well. So this is the best one we can go for. Now next thing, we need to think about the constructor, like we need to create our public constructor here, private constructor at here, using like this is the my Singleton class, and inside that we need to write some logic. Now here what care we should take inside this one? First of all, we need to block the reflection, and how we can do that, let me tell you. So here we can use like if Boolean dot true is not equal to, we can say dot equals. So let us add some code, and after that we can think of what is the meaning of that. So this is the get method, and here we need to throw illegal state exception, and here we can write some message like use get instance, which is our global access point method to create the instance, and reflection is not allowed. We can say reflection is not allowed. This is how we can control the reflection. Now we need to create the proper get instance access point. So before that, with this, like we are just checking that if the object is created, once it is created, it will not allow to create the other object. It will simply give this reflection is not allowed. Okay. So now we need to add the helper class in a proper way. How we can add this? Like we can use some private static class, and this is the holder class, which is the helper class we are going to create. Inside that we can use the variables, like we can use private, static, final, my singleton. So we can copy this because we are going to create the singleton instance inside this. So this is the variable declaration, and how we are going to create the variable. For that we are going to use the static block, inside which we are going to create the instance. Now here, before creating the instance, we need to set, like this is the initializing, we can add, and here we can set as a true, because here the instance is getting created, so we need to set this variable as a true value, and after that we need to allow to create the object. So here we need to add the try block, inside which we can add our logic to create an instance, and here we can say instance is equal to new my singleton. So this is the only place wherein we are creating the singleton instance, and after this we can add the finally block, wherein it will remove what we have set, remove the value what we have set inside this initializing, because this is just for creating a value for once we are setting it true, and once the instance is created we don't want this value to be true. So we are just removing this value, because we are going to use this condition at here, because if next time if it try to create the instance, this value will get null, or something will become null, and here this condition will always become true, due to which it will throw the exception that the reflection is not allowed. This will throw only after creating, once if the instance is existed, then, and if someone try to create one more instance, that time it will throw this exception. For that we are just removing this, because once we create the object, immediately that it will remove the value which we have set as a true. That's it about how our helper class. So we are going to design inside our singleton class. Now next thing we need to add, let me add it. Next thing we need to add a global access point. How we can add the getter method? So we need to add public static my singleton class. It will return, and here the method name is get instance, which will simply return our instance which is inside our holder dot. This is the instance which is inside our static inner class. This instance it will return which is already existed. Okay. So basically this instance will get created only when first time it is needed. We call it as a lazy loading, and it is lock free afterwards. Now let us see how we can add the serialization safeguard. So for that we need to implement our read resolve method, which is a private object read resolve. This is the method which will throw object stream exception. So this exception may be thrown inside this method. And how we can add the implementation part for this one? Like we can simply say return get instance. So this is the method we are going to call from here. So why this read resolve method is important? Because on deserialization it may create one more object of singleton instance. So just to avoid that, and it should replace the newly created object with the existing one, so that we will have only single copy of our singleton class. So for that reason we have add this serialization guard. Next thing, like we need to add a cloning guard as well. So for this, here we can use our protected object clone and here we can add throws clone not supported exception, and inside that we can simply throw new. This is the clone not supported exception, and inside that we can add singleton cannot be cloned. That's it. So this is the message we want to return. So what all things we have added inside this class? So let us have a look on this. Like first we have added the package and added all the important imports inside that, and this is the class declaration. The final keyword is needed so that this class should not get extended by any other class. Implement serializable is needed because our object may we need to transmit over the network or across the JVM. So that time on deserialization new object will get created. Just to avoid that, we need to implement the serializable, and we need to add this variable which will ensure that there will be only one copy which is matching to this ID, long ID. And apart from that, we need to add this read resolve method, which is again a part of serialization. This method ensures that there is only single copy of the object. It will not allow to create the new object on deserialization. Now this is of the serialization part. Next thing, we need to create this ThreadLocal. So which will with this ThreadLocal we can avoid the use of synchronized block, which may impact the performance, and volatile we do not need with this ThreadLocal. So basically with this we can block the reflection during the construction window using this ThreadLocal. Next, this is the private constructor we need to create, which is the most important thing we need to add, and it will block the reflection. And here with this ThreadLocal we are checking that if the instance is already created, it will simply block the reflection. And this is the helper class, which is the most important, and this is the helper class wherein we have added our important logic wherein we are creating our singleton instance, and what it contains, like our private static final singleton variable with name instance. And here we are setting this initialization ThreadLocal as a true, because in the next statement we are going to create our singleton instance. And immediately after creating the singleton instance, we are simply removing the value which is set it here. Why we are doing this? Because we don't want to allow any other thread to create the new singleton instance in between that process. Because for example, let's say if some thread has set this value and it is created the singleton, but before it removes that, some other thread has accessed that if it is a static boolean, then other thread may access this variable and set the value, modify the value, and create one more instance of the singleton. So just to avoid that, we need to use this technique. Like inside this, here we are ensuring that if initialization we are setting it true only once, and here we are creating the singleton after that, and immediately after that we are removing the value which is there. With that, post creating this singleton, we will get this value as a null every time, so that it will not allow to create any other object. And this condition will get true if one tries to create one more singleton instance. This is the global access point get instance method, which will return simply the existing instance of the singleton, and this is the read resolve we can use so that it will not create any other copy of the singleton instance, and it will throw the object string exception. Next, cloning guard. With this, like, it will not allow to clone the existing instance of the singleton, and with this we have added or completed all the measures we need to take into consideration while creating the singleton object. So this is the best approach you can think of. This is the production ready and best approach you can use in your project as well as in your interviews. You can tell why this is the Bill Pugh approach is the best one, and what all things we need to consider while writing this Singleton class. Now we have successfully created our Singleton pattern using Bill Pugh approach. Now let us add some test scenarios so that it will cover all these test scenarios and check how it will work for all those. Now for that we need to create one POM file inside this first of all. So we can right click new and file, and here we need to add pom.xml because we need to add a JUnit dependency here. So for that we can copy the JUnit part inside this POM file. So I am going to share the code link so that you don't need to do anything else on this. So this is the POM file, and here we can simply create one test class with name like my Singleton test. So this is the test class, and for that we can add the test scenarios, like I have prepared one. So just for checking whether everything is working fine for or not. So this is the test class which has all the scenarios, like it will check for both the instances. Herein we have tried to create one more instance. This is the first instance, and we have tried to create one more instance and see how it goes. Like it should show that both the instances should pointing to the same instance. Both the instances are the same. Likewise, this is the test for reflection, this is for test for serialization, and this is for cloning. So all these scenarios we are going to cover in this. Now for that we need to build this. We need to add the dependency using, we can choose run as and maven install, so that it will add the dependencies. Now here it is giving some, here we need to add a JUnit 5 library so that it will resolve all the read. Fine, now it is resolved, and we have successfully build our build this to success, and this is our jar file. Now next thing, just to check this, what we can do, we can simply run this code test by using right clicking on this, and we can say run as JUnit test. Seems good. Now it is showing 4 tests are run and all those are in green. That means all are successful. This is for test for serialization, this is for test for cloning, test for reflection, and test for singleton identity. So all these 4 scenarios we have tested successfully just to ensure that our code is successfully working in all these scenarios. With this, I hope you must have understood how we can create the Bill Pugh Singleton pattern and how we can test that. So I am going to share the code link. I hope you must have enjoyed this. Please do not forget to like, subscribe and share.